What's going on, guys? UFC 301 is behind us, and I got to be honest with you, it was a pretty good card. It delivered. It did absolutely deliver. It went the way we kind of thought it would go, right? A lot of the Brazilians won. A couple things I do want to touch on. The only fight that we got wrong, we had a great night, by the way. Themadlabmma.com. If you guys aren't there, definitely go over there. This is all we do: combat sports, boxing, MMA, anything combat sports. We do have in our Discord, we got guys doing NASCAR and NFL and stuff like that, but NBA. But our main focus is the UFC, combat sports, boxing. So, I mean, you get everything. There's no other site out there. There's no other provider out there. No other free content out there that gives you the depth of content that we give you week to week. It's not out there. You may like other content better. You may like other content providers better. But when it comes to what you get from a week to week basis from our site, you can't, it's uncomparable. You can't get it anywhere else. And we had a really good week. And the trend with us seems to be right now is that the bigger cards, the pay-per-view cards, the cards that are actually in arenas, we actually have been doing really well with. And then the Apex cards, we've been, so. So we had a really great week. UFC 301 came around. We had a monster week. We went 12-1, over 3 units for our wagers. The one that we got wrong was the one that I really had a feeling we were going to get wrong, and that was Anthony Smith. And it's because I'm a huge Anthony Smith guy. I'm a huge Anthony Smith supporter, and it was the one time that I just went against him. And I said it in the chat. I said it on the live stream. I said it on the podcast. I said Anthony Smith is going to be the guy that screws me here because I picked against him for the first time in a while. And sure enough, boom, that's what he did. I don't regret it because at the end of the day, what has he really shown me in his past couple fights? He's looked horrible. And it was more of a mistake on Petrino's end than it was actually a fight on his end. But he did what he needed to do. He found a way. He found a loophole to get the guillotine. He locked it in and it was over. That was pretty crazy, though. Because we were on our way to sweeping the card, and I really believe that we had a good opportunity to sweep that card. And Anthony Smith is the one guy that kind of, says to me, shame on you for picking against me. But great showing by him. But now, obviously, he's coming out. He wants title shots and stuff like that. I did see something about him where Alex Pieta offered him $50,000 to start on his back for 5 minutes. And if he could submit him in 5 minutes, then he would get the 50 grand. He actually accepted the offer. And I got to be honest with you, I think he can do it. If you're telling me that you're going to put Anthony Smith not on the feet to start, but you're going to put him on Alex Pieta's back with hooks in, and he has 5 minutes to sub him, I wouldn't put it past him. I would give him a 50-50 chance, maybe 60-40 to get it done within 5 minutes. Once those hooks are in, Anthony Smith does have a good grappling game. Alex Pieta is not that proficient on the ground. You're giving him 5 minutes to do it. You're not starting on the feet. You're literally starting on his back. His back with hooks in. Why not? I would take that too. I would take that bet. The one thing I do want to talk about, this show, usually on Mondays now when we do the review, it's kind of going over the card, but it's also like pointing out some things that I don't like that people are saying, and if I have to bash somebody, I will. I, all week, really thought that I was going to come and I was going to go on a revenge tour on how you can pick against Steve ERCEG against Pantoja. I'm still kind of there, but I got to be honest with you. There's a part of me that was like, wow, like this kid really did live up to that line. And I was not expecting him. I was expecting him to fight very well for the time that he was in there fighting. But I did not expect this to be a 5-round kind of a war. I got to be honest with you. I really did not see it going down like that. I thought Pantoja was going to clearly, win the rounds that he needed. Maybe drop a round here or two when he takes off. But I thought there was a good opportunity for him to possibly sub him early, just overwhelm him with that pressure, or just not it really looking like it that good of a fight going to the cards. Yeah, ERCEG would have his spots, but at the end of the day, Pantoja would kind of, you go to the card saying, dude, he maybe won one round. But it was a really entertaining, it was a really fun fight. But the one thing I will say about the MMA, community is, out there is that, like, you guys, you got to stop with the the recency bias, or because you bet a certain way and you think that, this was a robbery and that was a robbery. There was no robbery there. In my Discord, before they even said the cards, I said that it's either going to be 3-2, 1-3 and 5, or there is a possibility that they would go 4-1 for Pantoja. But there was no way in any way, shape, or form that when they went to the cards, I even thought for a second that ERCEG had a shot to win that fight. Because I don't care if a round is close. I don't care how close a round is. There's a winner and a loser. And if you guys can't decipher who won a round and who didn't win a round, I don't know what to tell you. Don't get me wrong. There are rounds that you go, it's kind of a swing round. Like, I know a lot of people out there going round 3. Okay, round 3. They're predicating it off one elbow that literally gashed him open, which is fine. Yeah, that's damage, but it's not an accumulation of damage. It's he got hit with a shot that cut him open. That does not completely dismiss everything else that happened in that round. Doesn't dismiss everything that happened in that round. Just because he landed that one shot that cut him open, that dismisses everything else for 4 minutes and 59 seconds that happened in that round. Like, you got to get that out of your head. But I know a lot of the people that are arguing that he got robbed, people actually say he got robbed, which is insane to me. But the people that are arguing that he got robbed, the people that are arguing that there's no way that round 3 should have went to Pantoja, you guys got to understand that these are people who bet him. These are people that bet him. People that either had no skin in the game and just were watching a fight and actually know about fighting, or people, that really just had no, like I said, skin in the game. Know that if you know how to score fighting and if you really watch that fight, Pantoja won that fight. Like, he won that fight. And the only thing I will say that I was right about, and the reason why there wasn't enough juice on the bone, or meat on the bone, I should say, to bet Steve ERCEG at those odds, and I needed more. I needed well over 2-1 odds to even go near it, is because eventually, if you're giving me 25 minutes, like I said, this is an experience thing. This kid does not have enough experience in the cage. I said that he was going to make mistakes. You have a guy in Pantoja who fought everybody, saw everybody, did everything. It's been 5 rounds. Has been, he is the champion. He's got that championship pedigree. Eventually, there's going to be a mistake that's made. Now, whether that mistake comes because it comes and he submits him, and that's where the mistake came, or a mistake just comes that he's going to lose the fight. Steve ERCEG showed the mistake in the 5th round. If you guys really did have that fight 2-2 going into round number 5, what lost Steve ERCEG that fight was his inability to have that 5-round experience in the cage, that championship experience in the cage, and he made a mistake. So that's where experience comes in. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you need to give me more than the odds that were there to pull the trigger on that. You know what I mean? So technically, the experience, Pantoja's experience and ERCEG's inexperience lost him that fight. I understand what he was trying to do, right? I understand that they were both tired. He figured, I'm the bigger guy, I'm the stronger guy. If I get him to the ground and I could just seal top control on him for the rest of the fight, because he's tired too, then I can eke away this fight. But that's the wrong thing. Your entire path through the whole fight was you were chewing him up with the jab. Your striking was cleaner. You were getting good rein management on him. He was kind of looping his punches at the end to try to get inside and take you down, and he was not getting them. He was getting them like, once in a while he would get a good entry and he would get on top of you. But all in all, you were the successor on the feet for a lot of the times that he was taking the break or the times that he was being tired. So why would you even attempt a takedown against a guy where his main path to beat you is on the ground? Huge mistake. It was a huge mistake, but I'm not looking at him like he's a guy like an Anthony Smith or something where how do you make that mistake when you have so much cage time under your belt? He lost that fight because he's not experienced enough. The kid's not experienced. He fought amazing for a kid who has only been in this sport for such a short period of time. He fought amazing. I give this kid nothing but kudos, and his stock went to the moon. But these MMA guys, like I know there was one guy who interviewed him was like, a lot of people really thought you won that fight and you have nothing to be ashamed about because we thought you won that fight. Like, he didn't win that fight. At the end of the day, he did not win the fight. So like these media members and some of these content providers that bet him and some of these just bettors on Twitter, like, get it out of your head that he won that fight. Just take the L. You take the L and you move on. Did your guy fight amazing? Yes. Did he fight better than I thought he was going to fight? Yes. But take the L and move on. Stop with the media. Like, I forgot what media member it was, but he gave him a really good interview. I'm not shitting on the interview, but to sit there and like put it in his head that he won the fight, like a lot of us, we all thought you won the fight and you fought amazing, and do you think Brazil had anything to do with it and stuff like, get out of here, bro. Like, he lost the fight. The kid lost the fight at the end of the day. Overall, though, it was a good card. It was a really, really good card. I had a lot of fun watching it. Ruffy, how about Ruffy? Ruffy is something else, huh? That kid is really, really good. I mean, that kid his striking is smooth. Everything is, there's no extra energy barriers used. Like, he just used what he needs. He throws with intent, and everything that he throws, seems to land and seems to have a rhyme or reason behind it. Kid's really, really, really good. I appreciated watching him a lot. I appreciated watching the whole card. Like, the whole card was really, really good. It was really, really exciting. Jose Aldo, I told you guys, like, how you guys cannot take Jose Aldo at plus money in Rio, the king of Rio, on a fight that is going to the cards. Like, 9 out of 10 times that fight's going to the cards, because both those dudes are super tough. And the guy, you knew that you had one guy on one side with the modern day really good leg kicking game and a good leg check game, and then on the other side you got the old guard that had a sick leg kicking game and a good leg check game, kick checking game. So what does that make this? That's going to make this a boxing match. None of these guys are going to the floor. Martinez is not going to get Aldo down with his 90% takedown defense for his career. So this was going to be a boxing match with a guy who literally has been doing nothing but boxing for the last year. Nothing but boxing. With his caliber of technique and his cage experience and his just overall veteran savvy and just being in Brazil, being the king of Brazil, like, where on God's green earth did you guys not see value in Jose Aldo there? We hit Jose Aldo by decision at plus 200, and we hit Jose Aldo in a parlay with plus 3.5, just in case Jose Aldo was the old Jose Aldo and Martinez started picking him apart. We had it kind of as a backup. So we cashed like 2.5 units just on him alone. I don't know where the value was on Martinez. I just didn't see it, but apparently a lot of people did. But Jose Aldo continues to defy age, which is kind of crazy to me. Overall, though, it was a great card. It was a really, really, really good card. I enjoyed it a lot. One thing I will say about Brazil, though, like, it didn't seem like the normal crowd that they usually have, that real rabid crowd. I seen a lot of empty seats. I don't know if it was because, somebody in my Discord said it was really hot in there. It was like 80 degrees in there. So maybe in between fights, people were going outside to get some air, and then they were coming back in. So when they were actually filming the cage walks with the guys, maybe people weren't back to their seats yet. But I did see some empty seats. Like, I did see, especially in the beginning, like, you would think that Brazil would be there for the whole card, like, supporting all their guys. Like, there was the first like two or three fights, there was like technically no one there. Like, it didn't look like there was anyone there. So that was kind of odd. Like I said, I don't know if it was because it was so hot and people were coming in and out in between fights, maybe to get some air, get some water. And then by the time the cameras were doing the cage, and then you just didn't see them in there yet. But it didn't seem like the normal Brazilian crowd. But it was an overall good card. Tomorrow I will be breaking down the Derek Lewis and the Nascimento card. We'll be talking about that. I'm going to try to do about 2-3 videos a week now. A review, obviously, the breakdown, and then maybe a synopsis, like a reaction to something that happens crazy on the card. But if nothing happens, then what are you going to do? We will talk about right now the Jack Shore thing. That's another thing that a lot of people are talking about, the Jack Shore and Brito thing. Jack Shore's dad came out and he talked about how can you stop this fight and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Apparently, there was no structural damage. Okay, so now I'm kind of stepping back off my position a little bit. If that's true, if Jack Shore's father's telling the truth that there was no structural damage to his leg, then yes, maybe it was a bad stoppage. The reason why I didn't think it was a bad stoppage in the beginning is because I saw the doctor, and a lot of people were like, oh, it's just a cut. Like, you guys don't just look at the cut. There's bone, there's tendons, there's everything behind that skin where that doctor seemed like he was putting his finger in there and he was checking for structural damage. And if you watch in the camera, he had the glove on, he was putting his finger in there. So the only thing that I was thinking is he put his finger in there, he felt some serious structural damage. He felt like a broken shin. He felt certain things that, look, if this guy continues to stand on this thing, or maybe, gets his leg kicked one time, this thing's going to snap. So we need to stop this fight. So all in all there, I was like, it's a good stoppage. He's injured. He's going to have to recover. Maybe he needs some kind of minor surgery to it. So why go in there in a fight that he's ultimately losing, and he was on his way to lose? He really couldn't get nothing done with Joanderson Brito. What happens if Brito throws 1, 2, 3 leg kicks and that thing is splintered enough where it's going to go, like it's literally going to snap? Why live to fight another day? So on that point, I thought it was a good decision. But when Jack Shore's father came out and said it was a terrible decision, he only needed a couple stitches and there was no structural damage, now I'm questioning what was the doctor feeling in there that he thought that there was structural damage enough to stop the fight. I don't know. I don't know if Jack Shore's father's telling the truth. I don't know what the truth and what it hasn't really come out yet. But apparently that's what happened. There was no structural damage. So I'm curious to know, as a doctor, what structural damage did you actually feel in there that caused you to stop that fight? You were there, you were close, you saw this, you saw the gash, you saw how, the symmetry of it, how big it was, how wide it was, how deep it was. But did you feel any structural damage in there? Like, if you did not feel any structural damage in there, then I think he needs to be questioned. Like, why did you stop the fight? What made you stop the fight because of a gash? We all saw the hole after it was sewn up, the suture. It wasn't that big. It looked a lot bigger because there was obviously that long stream of blood coming down, so you couldn't tell how actually long it was. His leg had a contusion on it, and it needed to release blood, and that's kind of like a fire hydrant. That's kind of how it releases its blood. But like I said, I'd like them to question, and these are the things that I think needs to be changed in MMA, right? I think they need to hold liability. I think they need to hold ownership, whether it's the referees, whether it's the judges, or whether it's the ringside physicians. I think it's very, very important that there's ownership held. A fighter has to go onto a press conference at the end of the fight, and they have to tell you what happened right and what's wrong. Dana White has to step onto the podium after the fights, and he has to talk about what went right and what went wrong. Why, if there's a really bad, egregious decision, why doesn't a judge have to answer to the media? Why doesn't the commission say to the judges and the refs and the doctors, listen, as of right now, you have nothing on your plate, but if something does go awry, if something does happen, if there's a controversial decision, or there's a controversial stoppage, or the referee steps in too early or steps in too late, during the press conference, yes, you need to allot about 5 minutes or 10 minutes of your time to answer some questions. I guarantee you a lot of this stuff would stop, because these guys do not want to stay. They have a shield in front of them. They have the commission in front of them that ultimately lies the statements for them and stuff like that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, put them on the podium. Put these guys on the podium. Put the doctor on the podium and say, this is what I saw. This is why I stopped the fight. Guys, have a good night. Or if Herb Dean stops the fight way too early or way too late, let him get up there and explain himself. Or if there's a judge that has a 30-27 one way and the other judges have a 29-28 the other way, let him get up there and explain himself. How did you come to this score? Tell us as the media, and then you go, okay, guys, this is how I did it. Have a good night. I think there needs to be more ownership, and I think if they set up something like that, I think we, the fans, would love it, because we're getting the excuse on why they don't just walk off into the night and that's it. They give us an explanation. We can either believe it, not believe it, or maybe they'll help us understand a little bit more. This is why I scored at 30-27, or this is why I stopped the Jack Shore fight, or this is why. Help us understand you a little bit better. So all in all, though, I think it was a successful night. I think it was a really good card. Like I said, at themadlabmma.com, where we have all our content, we had a monster night, one of the better nights we've had this year so far. It's been up and down. We're winning, then we'll lose. But we're up units on the year now, which is fantastic, and we're going to continue to do so. So come check us out, themadlabmma.com. Other than that, thank you for listening, and we will see you for the breakdown of Lewis and Nascimento. See you later.